What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Luminary Agent Show. This is a great episode because the other day, if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I talked about the fact that I hired a business coach who's a one thing coach, and he is here today. I'm with the awesome Jay Puppo, who is a one thing coach. He's who I hired a few months ago and has really been helping me kind of hone in on my business. So, Jay, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah.
Good to get time with you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We were talking about how there's no agenda today. We're just going to share your story and ask some good questions, and it's just going to be a nice time. So, to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, kind of just through life. You can take us back as far back as you want to, and tell us whatever you think is relevant that kind of brought you to what you're doing now with your coaching business.
Yeah, and if I get too far off on a tangent, you bring me back.
You're totally fine.
Yeah.
We love tangents here.
Well, so I've loved business my whole life, and started an insurance business and had success.
How old were you when you started your insurance business?
Right out of college, I joined an insurance company, worked my way up the food chain, but we were having to move every couple years. That got old for my family.
Oh, gotcha.
So about 19 years ago now.
What were you moving for?
In the company, to move up, you had to move geographically.
Okay, so, gotcha. That makes sense.
And then when we started making babies, it's kind of difficult to, well, you can do it, but it wouldn't work for my family. So
yeah, had
an opportunity to go into agency. An amazing opportunity came up in Wilsonville, here in Oregon, and jumped on that. Jumped into the business full steam ahead, and had success, had tremendous success, and always grew, every year grew. Yet there was sort of an emptiness because, working 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, at least 5 days a week, often 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, your battery just gets drained, and the passion goes out.
Yeah.
And that's where I was, making more money than I've ever made before, and yet, really kind of didn't know my wife. Have these 3 amazing boys, and sort of kind of didn't know them well. Yeah. And we own an office building, and we leased to a real estate agent, Keller Williams agent Andy Green.
Okay. And
I noticed that Andy was, working a lot of hours too.
Yeah.
And he was having great success and growing, hiring people, and saw his signs all over town. And we would, 11 o'clock at night, we'd both be in the building, and we'd bump into each other in the kitchen or whatever, and we'd kind of, pound
our chest.
Yeah,
we're here. We're the last guys here.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a couple months, I noticed that he's in the office less and less and less. And then one night, about 11 o'clock at night, I'm sitting at my computer, and ding, up pops the email from Andy Green, and the subject line is, "Wish you were here." I thought, well, where the heck is he? It's the middle of the night.
Out of the office, we're supposed to be throwing out about this.
So I open the email, and there's a great big picture of Andy Green standing on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and the caption was, "Wish you were here." And I thought,
yeah,
I wish I was there too.
Yeah.
So when he got back from Africa, I cornered him. I said, "Buddy, I got to know what you're doing, because you're better looking than me, but you're not any smarter than me. And why is it that you have a successful business, you're making good money, yet you're going to Africa and you're doing all these amazing things, and you're spending time with your kids, and I see you and your wife around town, and you have this great marriage, and what's going on?" He handed me a copy of The One Thing. And that was the moment that radically changed my life. I took the book home. I read the book in one sitting. I stayed up all night long, read the book. 5 o'clock in the morning, my wife got up, and she saw me sitting in the chair, about ready to knock out. She said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I read this great book, and it's amazing, and I'm going to go to bed now. Yeah. So I went to bed, got up about 5 o'clock that night, and started reading the book again. And I read the book 3 times straight. And disagreed with some of the things, so I started cyber stalking the authors, Gary Keller and Jay Puppo. I tried to find, try to send them emails about, hey, this is BS and this doesn't work. And in that process, I also started executing some of the principles.
I love how you just were like, I'm gonna find these authors. Like, how many people? Like, I don't think a lot of people would be like, no, I don't agree with this, and I'm gonna try and find these prolific people.
The truth is,
the internet.
I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
Right? I had no idea who Gary Keller, the founder and owner of the biggest real estate company on the planet. I had no idea that was the guy.
Gotcha.
So probably had I known that, I probably wouldn't have been so brave in trying to email him. But started executing the principles of the one thing. Began the process of building habits, identifying priority in my life. And it started with my family. And it started with my wife and my boys. And I just had some radical things happen. And then through the process of emailing the authors, I was connected to one of their coaches, Les McGahee, who's an amazing coach. If you ever have a chance to meet him or hear him speak or be coached by him, he's phenomenal. Les is very close to the authors, and started coaching with Les. And in less than 6 months, not only was I not working 16 hours a day or 14 hours a day or 12 hours a day, I wasn't even working 8 hours a day.
So let's back up a little bit, because you just like zoop. So you read the book, you try to reach out to the authors. Yeah. You get connected to one of the coaches, basically one of the one thing coaches, right?
Actually, he's one of the he's a sub-author. He wrote all of the supporting material for the one thing.
Okay.
So Gary and Jay wrote the actual book,
but
the teleseminar materials, the workshop materials, all of that came from Les McGahee.
Okay, gotcha. So you get connected to him, and you're like, what the hell's, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
And what did he say to you?
He said, you're wrong, and here's why. Bam, 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 bam. And I went, holy cow, this is one smart dude.
Right.
And we started having an ongoing conversation. He invited me to coach with him.
Gotcha,
okay. And it was at that moment where I got out the checkbook and hired a coach and submitted myself to, weekly homework.
Yeah.
Doing the homework, doing the assignments that he gave me to do. And one of the things you learn in the one thing, when you become a one thing trainer, one of the things that you learn is how to do things in sequence. It's one thing at a time. There's lots and lots and lots of things we all do.
Yeah.
And in fact, I know that you're in the real estate space. I know that you work and help build real estate agents' businesses. Yeah. And one of the things I see with the real estate agents that I work with in my coaching business is, man, there's so many things. There's social media, and there's door knocking, and there's fear, and there's database, and it becomes overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And so what Gary and Jay teach us is you pick one, because any one of them will drive success.
Yeah.
You pick one, you focus on it, you become great at it, you move it forward, and you begin making the dominoes tumble.
I think that's actually a really interesting point, because I know that personally, I know a lot of people like this, because there are so many pathways to success, we're always worried we're going to pick the wrong one.
That's right.
And so we become paralyzed by the choices, because we want to know the end result before we start, so that we know we picked the right path.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm learning, thanks to you and other reading that I'm doing, is that any path can be successful if you work at it. So pick the one that you like the most. Pick the one that you'll get the most joy and happiness from. And I'm personally loving that, because it's really fitting in with my message that I'm starting to say, which is, a lot of agents have been taught that the way to success in real estate is through cold calling or door knocking, or expireds, FSBOs, etc. Sure. And sure, those things all work.
They work.
They are a path to success.
That's right.
But so is running a business by referral.
Yes.
So is focusing on your database. So is focusing on 100 people in your life that you can just get to absolutely love you.
Yeah.
And what I find is that for most people that are realtors, they also have the personality type that lends really well to running their business that way.
Yes.
By referral and through relationships.
Right.
And so I'm like, all of these are pathways to success. Pick the one that sounds the most fun to you. Pick the one that you like the most. The one that's going to make you get up and not go, oh, I have to make 100 phone calls, but like, oh, I have to reach out to 5 people who I actually really care about and ask them how they're doing. and as a byproduct of that, I will sell real estate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right, Cody. And I think that you could actually take a step back, go back a step.
Yeah.
You really have to ask yourself, what things can I say no to?
Right.
Most real estate agents get paralyzed with the options.
Yeah.
And they do what? They do nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to do something. Gary Keller would say, do one thing, pick one thing. And if you pick something that you're passionate about, that you love, that will inspire you, it's sure a heck of a lot easier to get out of bed in the morning when you know you're going to do something you love.
Right.
If you're going to go have coffee with 3 close friends and ask them for referrals, that's a lot more fun for some people than calling FSBOs.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly the point.
Nothing against FSBOs. I know lots of agents who...
But here's the thing. Those agents, that should be at least what drives them to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'm going to find these people who think they can sell their house on their own. They're going to struggle with it. They're going to have a hard time with it. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to save the day for them, you know? And that is a great, if you come in with that mindset and that's what you want to do, then you are truly helping and you are coming from a place of contribution.
That's right.
But if you have the personality or the mindset, either way, that like you're bothering those people or you're being a drag or this, that, or the other, you've lost already.
Yep.
You know? So that's awesome. Okay, so you start getting coached.
Yes. And
then what happens in your life?
So it was amazing. I started working less, significantly less, and my income went up. We had about a 300% increase in our growth rate.
Wow.
Throughout my career, I've averaged 6, 7, a couple of times gotten as high as 8%. In my first year of coaching, I went to 18%.
So what was your one thing then for that time period? What did you start focusing on that led to that growth?
My one thing was build my team.
Okay.
So every day I got up in the morning and said, what can I do today? What step can I take today to build my team? And when I say build my team, I wasn't necessarily talking about adding people to the team, but build their skills, build their abilities, build their knowledge, build their influence.
Gotcha.
So every day for an entire year, build my team, build my team, build my team. And as they began to become more confident and competent, their sales went through the roof. And they were having more fun. Everybody has more fun when you're selling more.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, so working less, earning more, having more fun. I'm thinking, what could possibly be wrong with this, right?
Yeah.
And then another thing, kind of a magical, unexpected thing happened. A friend of mine who was a pastor called me out of the blue and said, hey, I need some help. And of course, I always think when pastors call you, the first thing they probably want is money. And I was like, I don't have any money to give you. And he said, no, I'm not calling for that. He said, God's calling me to write this book. And I said, buddy, I don't know anything about books. I've never written anything. I can barely spell my own name. I don't see how I can help you, and I'm not going to invest in a book. Books are not, great investments, so I just can't help you. He said, no. What I need is, I just need to be held accountable. For 13 years, I've been trying to write this book. And I just need somebody that is going to make me write 250 words a week. And I thought, he's asking for accountability. He's asking for a coach. I thought, what if I just say everything that Les says to me that week, I'll say to Zach.
Yeah.
And so we began making phone calls. And at that time, because I was working less, I was spending more time with my kids, and my oldest son wanted to learn Spanish. And so we were going to Guatemala frequently and taking Spanish lessons. And,
oh, wow.
And I bring that up only to tell you that when I was out of the country, if I was in Guatemala, if we were in Hawaii, wherever we were, anywhere in the world, it did not matter. We met every single Friday at 8:30 in the morning. And 6 months later, he lives in Tampa, Florida. 6 months later, we meet every Friday at 8:30. About 8:20, I had to go to the men's room. And as I'm walking back, one of my team members said, hey, there's somebody pounding at your back door. And I thought, I don't have time for this. It's probably my kid bringing me a drink or something. I don't have time for this. I got my call at 8:30. I open the door, and Zach's saying, in fact, if you look right there, Cody, that yellow folder, Zach was standing there holding that yellow folder with tears coming down his cheeks because he had completed in 6 months his first manuscript.
So he flew from Tampa and showed up at your back door for your 9:30 call, but he was actually here.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because it was so important to him to show me that in 6 months he had finished his book.
Wow.
So that's the first manuscript. I'm really excited to tell you that tomorrow evening, his book release party is going to happen in Newburgh, Oregon. Tomorrow night.
That's awesome.
So, so I call myself the accidental coach. I never intended to be, I'm an insurance guy, an investment guy. I never intended to be a coach, and yet people seem to keep finding me, and we're having fun. So it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your coaching in the one thing, and tell us about what that looks like, what's involved in that, and then we'll continue your story from how you actually transitioned from being coached to coaching the actual one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so after after Zach showed up, and when he left, are we allowed to use bad language?
Yes.
Literally, I said to myself, "Holy shit, I haven't felt this good since like the birth of my last child." Right?
Yeah.
It was just such a fulfilling, great moment to be able to help somebody make their dream come true.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought, I need to look at this. So I called Les and I said, I think I need to do something about this. He said, come to Austin. We'll get you into a training program. So I went to Austin. I went through Gary Keller's One Thing certification program.
Which you must have been a good student for him to invite you through.
Yeah. It was, he's a very generous man. And my intention was not at that point to become a coach. My intention was to learn the principles even deeper.
Okay.
Because as I watched Zach learn the principles and his progress, I thought, man, if I just continue to master these skills, what could happen in my own life?
Yeah.
And went through the program, got certified, came back, and people called. I've never advertised. I've never tried to get clients, so to speak. People just sort of shown up, and so we do coaching now, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can attest that it is wonderful.
Well, thank you. I get way more out of it than the coaching clients. But I guess procedurally or process-wise, what I try to do in my practice is I try to get people to begin living the one thing in their life. So you obviously have to read the book.
Yeah.
You have to learn the principles, and then we start working the principles step by step. Yet, for me, one of the big surprises that has shown up is the volume of limiting beliefs in people's minds.
I can personally attest to that.
Right? It's everywhere.
Yeah.
We all have this thing.
Yeah.
And so one of my strengths, if you've done the Gallup Strengths assessment, one of my strengths is focus.
Okay.
The ability to just intently focus. So when I started coaching folks, man, I was like just drilling people on, you've got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And what I realized is that our mindset gets in the way. So I've sort of been doing a lot of research and study on mindset, doing some work with a psychologist and learning from him and weaving some of these concepts in. And so what I've come to understand is that to really master the one thing skills and to really make them part of your life, you really have to get past your own mind.
Yeah.
You have to get past your own stuckness.
Yeah.
And so, so that's been good.
I was just listening to one of Gary Vee's podcasts, one of his most recent ones, and he was interviewing some people who had just written a book, and he was saying like how the older he gets and the more he gets into this, the more he believes that like your mind truly can shape whatever destiny you choose.
Absolutely.
Like it is so powerful, I mean, even like can physically change us.
Yes.
And how our limiting beliefs just gets in the way of that so much.
Yeah. In fact, I've become so passionate about this that I in my own philosophy, I've come to believe that your thoughts are the one thing.
Yeah.
Your thoughts first before any action. It's all about how you're thinking. So what I'd encourage the agents who you coach and work with, there's really practical things that we all need to do in terms of social media and whatnot, and invest in your thinking, invest in getting to know your thoughts, invest in understanding how your mind is working or not working. Not for the sake of judgment, yet for the sake of understanding, for the sake of awareness. Raise your level of awareness about how you're thinking, and be aware how those limiting thoughts might be holding you back.
Yeah, that's super true. Okay, so can you give us a quick rundown of the one thing, the book and then the principles, so that people who haven't read the book yet can at least get the Cliff's Notes version?
Yeah, boy, there's so much content in that book.
There is a lot for sure, but I think that there's at least some basic principles.
Yeah, I think for me the big basic principle is Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah.
This idea that 20% of your actions lead to 80% of your results. There's just a few things that are getting you everything in return.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is also true. 80% of our actions are really getting us nothing.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of shit we're doing, if you will, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't move the needle forward. So why are we doing it?
And we focus, and I see this a lot, even in social media. I'll see my clients, they will post stuff to check the box that they posted something, but not that they posted something that would actually move the needle. I'm like, I would rather you posted 3 times a day something that's valuable than sharing an article every single day that provides no value to someone.
Yeah.
Like that's that kind of principle in action.
Yeah.
And then the one thing I personally loved about the one thing is doing the inception of the Pareto principle. So the 20% of the 20%.
Yeah,
of the 20%,
we call that
right?
extreme Pareto.
Extreme Pareto.
Yeah, so if you do the math, what's 20% of 20? So it's about 4, right? So what's 20% of 4? It's 0.8 or 1. So what's the one thing? And if you do 80% of 80, it's 64%. And what's 80% of 64? It's 56%. So one thing gets you 56% of your results. And I have a real life example of this. I work with a mortgage broker, and the guy literally drives all over the metropolitan area calling on literally over 100 real estate agents trying to get business, right?
Yeah.
This is how we do this.
Yep.
And he is exhausted.
Yeah.
And he has a new family, and he never has time for them. And he's, kind of like I was about 15 years ago. And my heart just kind of broke for the guy because he's running around, he's trying to build a business, he's trying to do everything right. And when we started working together, one of the things we started talking about is who are your top producers? And what would happen to your world? What would happen to your life? So long story short, he took the 100 or so, he narrowed it down to the top 20. And what we said is you've got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to focus on your top 20. If you have any time left over, Thursday and Friday, and you want to go run around, drive all over Portland, you can.
Yeah.
I won't stop you.
Yeah.
But what he started finding is that by spending time with those top 20, all of a sudden his sales started going like this, right? And then I said, well, let's try it again. Let's do 20% of 20. Let's get you down to 5.
Yeah.
And rather than just dropping in their offices and bringing them donuts and all the same crap that everybody else shows up with, what happens if you brought value to them?
Yeah.
What happens if you brought ideas or training that really moved the needle for them?
And there's only 5 people.
Only 5. Now you're still calling on other people on those other days of the week,
course.
right?
Yeah.
Those 5 people within 6 months accounted for more than half of his production. And by the way, his overall production went up, not down. He's working less and making more.
Yeah.
So that notion of extreme Pareto is so valuable, and I just encourage everybody to think about, really make a list of things not to do. When Steve Jobs left Apple and then the company started to crash, and so the board said, well, Steve, we need you to come back. The one thing that Steve Jobs did when he came back into Apple is he walked up and down the corridors of the development department, right, the research and development department, and he said, no, they had 140 some projects under development at the moment that he came back. He walked up and down the hall saying, no. I mean, if you saw the movie, you know that nobody liked him.
Yeah.
This is a big reason why, because he was firing people right and left. He was dropping their pet projects.
Yeah.
And at the end of that time, he focused Apple on 10 projects, and all 10 of those projects had one common element. It was the user interface. It was the idea of, just touching the computer and having that user interface that's so magical that only Apple, has done so well. And the results. Apple is the most capital of any company on the planet. Now, I don't know how they compare today with Amazon.
Yeah.
But in recent time, they've had more cash in hand.
I was going to say, they have more cash, I think.
They have more cash than anybody. Yeah. And it's because he had extreme focus, that extreme Pareto concept. But if I can, on this idea of saying no, you're talking about people doing things, doing videos, doing social media posts, just to kind of get some, check the list, right? And I was recently talking to a group of 250 bank leaders, and one of the points that came out of that meeting was that we all make these to-do lists, and they keep getting longer and longer, and that stress kind of builds because we've got this massive to-do list.
Yeah.
And some in the audience said that sometimes they will go do something, and then they'll come back and they'll write it on their to-do list so that they can immediately scratch it off, right?
Because it's the feeling of accomplishment.
Feeling of accomplishment. And
which is very insidious.
Yes, it is.
If you're not accomplishing the right thing.
Gary Keller would say, it is a lie. Yes. And so what I've learned from a psychological perspective and a biological perspective is that when you cross things off your to-do list, your brain actually shoots a little dopamine.
Yeah, you get a little dopamine.
You get a little high off the deal.
Yeah.
So you can lie to yourself and get high and get happy, but accomplish nothing. And that happiness just goes to nothing.
Yeah.
So I encourage people, don't make to-do lists. Stop making to-do lists. Or if you do make a to-do list, have a second list called a should-do list.
Yeah.
Have no more than 1 or 2 or 3 things on that should-do list, and do those first. You can mess around if you want all day long, farting on the other items on your to-do list, but get these most important things, the one thing each day done. Get one thing done that's really going to move the needle done first.
Yeah.
That 8 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning when your battery is full, you've got the energy.
And to that point, I've noticed in myself that, and I've read and listened to and then noticed in myself that we really do have a finite level of concentration and willpower in a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so if you wait till the end of the day to do your most important thing, I mean, you're running on low fumes. Yeah. I mean, you're running on nothing at that point.
Yeah.
And you've let the best parts of yourself and the most important aspects of yourself, you've given them to the things that will mean the least in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, this little space that we're in, my little private hidden office, is a testament to that concept. Because all day long in my life, the phone is ringing, the text messages, the notifications. I have 7 employees all day long. They're, the clients are it's being bombarded. And I think for your clients, these real estate agents in Portland and across the country, being bombarded, just messages. And so this idea of having a space that's really kind of a secret space. Charles Duhigg had a great book where he talks about this notion of limiting the noise.
Yeah.
Turning that volume way down so you can actually think.
I heard him speak when his book came out.
Yeah.
It was really great.
I wish I could hear him. I bet he was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you want to eliminate the noise because that's how you preserve the battery. And absolutely first thing in the morning when your battery is full. Now, I will say that for some people, their battery gets charged at a different time of the day.
Yeah.
There's a percentage of the population, they're night owls. And if you are aware that your battery gets full about 9:45, that's when you do your one thing, right?
I'm that way to a certain extent. Like the morning time is just sluggish for me.
Yeah.
And I used to really beat myself up about that. And I also come from a household where my parents are both morning people. They both get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They have their entire adult life,
right?
And they have a son who
9:30.
is not like that.
Yeah.
Like my mom used to have to come down and get me up for school in the morning, and I remember she would start out very nice and sweet, and then the next time she came down, she was like, "Hey, it's time to get up." And then the third time she came down, she was like, "Cody, get out of bed. And I remember that.
Did she use your middle name?
I don't think she ever used my middle name.
Okay.
That was reserved for really angry times.
Okay, yeah.
But I remember this from junior high and high school, and so I know that I've never been a big morning person, and I know that there's so much going on in the online world right now about waking up at 4:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning, et cetera, and we feel if we're not morning people, those things make us feel really bad about ourselves.
Yeah.
And I've had to teach myself and actually my parents. Even my mom has come to realize over the years that, no, like, you're just not a morning person.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, physiologically, you're not a morning person.
Yeah, raise your awareness about your physiology.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
And it's made me, and the real problem that it had in my life is when I would sleep in, it would ruin my entire day because I would feel guilty the entire day about the fact that I didn't get up early.
Yeah.
I'd sleep in till 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and then get up, and I was just like, well, I didn't get up early when I was supposed to. The day's ruined. I would start the day off in such a negative space.
Yeah, you just gave evidence to this whole notion of limiting beliefs and how they're formed very young in our lives for just really crazy ideas. Crazy, the idea that you have to be a morning person is a crazy idea.
Yeah.
It's not a logical idea because you can't deny your physiology.
And
you are who you are.
It's so funny, this just came up in my head. I remember going to my grandparents' house all the time and telling, my grandpa or something, oh yeah, like I got to sleep in, I slept until 9 or I slept until 10. And my dad and my grandpa would say, well, geez, by 8 o'clock in the morning, the day's half over.
Yeah.
Because he got up at 4 a.m. every day.
For him, it was.
For him, it was, And so I'm just connecting all of this. I'm like, all my life I heard that getting up early was right.
Yeah.
And not getting up early was wrong. And so no wonder I have this limiting belief that if I got up at 8 o'clock in the morning or even 7:30, that the whole day was ruined.
Right.
And by dropping that belief and being like, some of my most productive hours are from 8 to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
They really are. The juices are flowing. I'm happy. I'm excited. I'm loving what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm just that's the time of the day when I most have the ability to get into flow. Is probably during that time frame.
Yeah.
And all those books and all those people out there would tell me the opposite of that.
Yeah. Let me interject one idea. We also know that habits are the most powerful thing.
Totally.
So thoughts, habits. That's sort of the way things go, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts, habits. So if somebody has developed a bad habit or an unproductive habit, maybe their physiologically most productive hours are 8 to 10 p.m. And yet they're staying up until 12 or 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of alcohol is coming in, maybe a lot of bad TV is coming in. These are habits that I don't support. Right? So you got to get a good night's sleep. You've got to get your 8 hours or 7.5, whatever your body needs. You got to get what your body needs.
Well, and even and I'm a personal a testament to that, because even though I'm not a morning person, I am still in bed at the latest by 11 p.m.
Okay.
At the latest.
There you go.
Because if I stay up until past that, I know that it is actually going to affect me the next day, even worse. And so I very much agree with that, for sure.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so extreme Pareto principle, the one thing of the one thing, and tell us. So Gary Keller has in the book called The Focusing Question, which is
what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary. Notice he says, what's the one thing? So So we're not trying to create a long list.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're, it's sort of like your to-do list. If you're lying to yourself, if you're giving yourself dopamine by writing this long list and scratching stuff off, you're just playing a game. You're hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So Gary Keller says, what's the one thing?
Yeah.
So limit your mind down to one thing. What's the one thing? And then this, for me, is the most important thing. He wants you to find the one thing that you can do.
Right.
So how many times when we're writing our list do we think about all of this stuff that is so far out in the future, so impossible, that what do? We just say, it's impossible, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so you're looking for what's the one thing I can do. And then the really important point after that is that you have to ask yourself, if I do this action, what's the result?
Right.
What's the domino that it's going to knock over next, which will knock over another domino and another domino, another domino, another domino, and get you to your end goal.
Okay.
So you have to, 3 components, one thing you can do, and doing it's going to get exactly the results over time that you want to get. And that's the first habit I built when I started investing in the one thing, is I started asking myself the question, the focus, what's the one thing I can do? Get up in the morning and say, what's the one thing I can do to have a great day? Such that by doing it, everything else is going to be easier or unnecessary.
But by doing that, you also knew where you wanted to be.
I had a vague idea, but it wasn't totally clear. And this is really important too, as you're setting goals and as you're thinking about your vision for your future, especially those of us who have lots of limiting beliefs. And I'm chief among us, right? Tons of limiting beliefs. Yet what I'm learning is, as I overcome those limiting beliefs, as I grow and as I have progress and as I have new evidence, as I prove to myself that I can do stuff, what happens is you get stronger. The muscles get stronger.
Yeah.
And you're able to do more and more and more and more.
Yeah. So how does how does somebody who's, starting from zero, how do they tie in, I'm starting right now, I want to start to ask myself the one thing question, and then how do I know that I'm answering that in the correct way or in the best way for me that gets me to whatever goal I might have? Yeah. Because I know for me personally, I had to write down my, I needed to know where I was going.
Yes.
If I just get in the car and I'm like, where's the one place I can go today, that's gonna make my life happy or whatever. I mean, I have no destination, so anywhere I go is the right answer at that point.
Well, the right answer is forward.
Okay.
Right? The right answer is not stuck, and the right answer is not backwards. The right answer is forward. And your vision will become clearer and clearer as you move forward.
Okay.
So today, for somebody who's just watching this, they begin asking the focusing question. And by the way, what you really want to do when you're asking the focusing question is you want to ask it all day long.
Yeah.
At every key transition throughout the day. So for me, it's the first thought when I wake up. What's the one thing I can do? And for me, it's, hey, think some good thoughts. So I go into some gratitudes, do some affirmations. As I'm getting to the shower, what's the one thing I can do today to make this a great day for my wife and kids? Yeah. Right? And so I start thinking about, hey, I can just be nice. Yeah. What if I tell them I love them today? Yeah. So what's the one thing I can do? As I'm driving to the office, what's the one thing I can do to build my team? Yeah. What's the one thing I can do to make my clients better taken care of? Yeah. So ask the focusing question throughout the day. Be aware that your vision of what you want will expand as your limiting beliefs detract, go away, are eliminated.
I mean, that's been true. I think every time I send you my goal sheet, my numbers get bigger.
Yes.
At first I'm like, I want to help 50 people. And I was like, let's do 100. And I was like, no, I think 200. And I'm like, no, 500 is definitely doable.
Well, and I remember with that 50, you were like, can I talk about you? Is that okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
I remember you were like, I don't know, can I do 50 people?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now you're like, you totally can do 50 people. You can serve 50 people. Yeah. It's amazing. So yes, getting rid of the limiting beliefs. And how do you get rid of your limiting beliefs? You become aware of them. You ask yourself, what is that voice that's talking over here? What's it saying? Yeah. And I'd encourage you, if you're hearing that voice saying you can't be successful in real estate, you can't be successful in social media. Oh, that market's already taken care of. Oh, so-and-so's already got all of the social media spots purchased. Those are limiting beliefs. Write those down.
Yeah.
Write them down. And then look at the page and go, okay, these are limiting beliefs that are in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
And then also asking, is that true?
Yeah.
That was a really big one for me, is going, okay, here's a belief,
Mm-hmm.
that somebody else is doing this in my same space,
Yeah.
and so there's no room for me. And then going, well, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
No. Logically, I know that it's not true. Okay, well then just saying that it's not true, now I can start to emotionally feel
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, that's not true.
Possibility starts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there could, what if there's 10 of us? What if there's 20 of us or 30 of us, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean that I can't impact my 500 people, out of 1.3 million realtors?
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the power of the one thing is really powerful. It really is.
It's been a life changer for me.
Yeah.
It really has, and I don't mean to sound, sort of evangelical about it or something like that.
Yeah.
And yet, I read all the time, hundreds of books a year, right? Just reading all the time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these development books, self-help kinds of books, they're all kind of saying the same thing. For me, Gary and Jay really just worded things in such a way that maybe they used fourth grade language that I can understand.
Yeah.
Yet it's just very clear. So I'd encourage people to read the book if they haven't.
Yeah.
Read the book.
Read the book. That's right.
Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to touch on is I think you mentioned to me once that you either got coached by Gary Keller personally or he read. Did you have any interaction with him? I can't remember.
Just when we were in Austin doing the training, there was a quick interaction.
Yeah.
I had more interaction with Jay Puppo.
Okay.
In fact, I had an opportunity
did he help write The Millionaire Real Estate Agent too?
He had some involvement, but I don't know to what degree.
I just know his name.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. So Jay's been around for a number of years and has helped write a lot of books. And I understand that there's a new edition of The One Thing coming. I can't wait. So
that's awesome.
Lots of new. In the One Thing world, there's lots of new stuff coming out.
Very cool.
So it's exciting. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to add?
Just great.
Or anything else we can touch on?
Great to be here, and I would encourage your listeners to begin to ask themselves the focusing question.
Yeah.
Ask the focusing question.
I mean, I can personally say it's already. I mean, we've only been coaching this is our second month, I think
So, yeah.
And it's already for me has made a huge difference just because it's helped me really focus in on what my goals are. That's a part of it all. And so really looking at what do I actually want? Where do I actually want to go? When I look at my life and think that's a really cool life, what does that actually look like? And then what do I do to get there? And I have 15 goals written down, but there's really one goal that if I accomplish that goal, it makes all the rest of them pretty easy.
When you accomplish that goal.
That's right.
Yes.
When I accomplish that goal,
yes.
it makes all the rest of those so much easier, And so that's been really great. And then it's just helped me, for someone like me who does wake up in the morning and sometimes feels paralyzed by all of the things that I could do,
right,
to focus on the one thing that I can do and the one thing that I should do.
Yeah.
That will actually move me toward that needle. And one of the most amazing things I feel like is that it's helped me have more days where I feel like that was a good day.
Nice.
Yeah. Because instead of being at the end of the day being like, I got a lot of stuff checked off my list, but I don't feel like I did anything, or I did anything that actually mattered, right? I got those little dopamine hits by checking it off, but then when the dopamine subsides, because that's a quick hit,
come and
go.
It's gone. That's right.
Once that subsides, then I'm left with the regret of the day or the disappointment of the day that I didn't do what innately I really knew that I was supposed to do. So I find myself having more days of being happy.
Yeah.
And one more thing I want to say before we leave that
Okay.
you taught me is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
And
yes.
so I want you to talk about that, because that honestly has kind of been a little life changing. I mean, without like turning it into a big thing, it's really been a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it comes back to these notions of limiting beliefs and,
Yeah.
and these thoughts that come into our minds. There's an attorney who's written a book, and I believe it's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
And she teaches us that when these limiting beliefs or thoughts come into our minds, when your mind says to you that you can't do something, if you can grab it right there and say to yourself, and in fact, I love it when you say it out loud. People around you think you're crazy sometimes, right? So you got to be a little careful of that.
Yeah.
But just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I've added slap or snap or somehow make some kind of a breaking point.
Yep.
What that does is that gives your brain a second to reset, so that limiting belief, that thought that's come into your mind, does not become the predominant thought.
Right.
So the reset lets you think through that and go, oh, is there a different thought? And what I'm learning in my own life is that, I don't know, 80, 90% of the time, the thought that I originally wanted to have, which is usually a goal or something I want in the future, right? That sort of, this voice subsides and this voice gets lifted up.
Yep.
So it's a great habit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, snap, get rid of those limiting beliefs and move forward.
And for me, I've noticed that I'll know, like, this is what I need to do next. Like, this is the thing I need to get into. And then I'll have this feeling of, like, almost a tenseness in my chest, which I believe is, like, anxiety or me feeling like, oh, I don't know if this is what I should be doing, or this is going to be hard, or I don't know if it's going to turn out right, all of those things. I do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I clap, and then I immediately just start doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes.
The clap is like, we're just starting right now. It's the go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's the gun going off.
It's the gun going off. And it has really reduced the amount of time that I lollygag before I start into something, because it can be very easy to be like, oh, I've got to do this thing, but I'm resisting it. Oh, I'm going to go to Facebook for a few minutes, right? Yeah. Or, oh, I've got this thing that I need to do. I feel like it's going to take too much time. I'm going to go over into the kitchen.
Or check my text.
Or I'm going to check my text, right? Yeah. And instead I'm like, I'm feeling this resistance. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, clap, and then boom, I go right into the thing. And that's made it's made a huge difference, well, And then I'm like 45 minutes later, after the thing is done, I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad, you know. And if I hadn't have done that, even that simple action, I probably wouldn't have started yet, or I wouldn't have finished. Certainly wouldn't have finished. Like, it would never have even come to completion in my day.
Yeah. Cody, I just want to recognize you for just being a man of integrity and honesty and openness. I mean, the willing to, share with all of your viewers.
Well,
this is powerful.
Here's what I do know is anything that I say, any struggle that I have, I know that someone else is having it. And there's power in numbers, and there's power in knowing that you're not alone. Yeah. Like, just knowing that there's somebody else out there who's, like, whenever I talk to someone on the phone or something, and I find out that they are not a morning person either, and that they got up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock that morning and they're still having a productive day.
Right.
It's like, see, Yeah. And but we only get that from being open and honest. Yeah. And so really part of that, I mean, I'm doing it selfishly, because I'm like, I'm going to put these feelers out there in hopes that people will come to me and say that I'm the same way, and then we have this power,
Yeah.
And then it also reduces the power that thing has over us as well.
Well, be aware that what you're doing is helping people, and you're a leader who's changing the world, and I just appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've loved having you as a coach.
Yeah.
So it's going really well.
Good.
So yeah. Well, thank you for being on the Luminary Agent Show today, Jay.
Yes.
I think, and this was a fantastic episode. There's so much here that people need to hear, And I would encourage everybody, buy, beg, borrow, steal, don't steal, but get the One Thing book and read it and really read it, and then try to implement the one thing in your life and use that focusing question. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Tell yourself that, ask yourself that every morning and throughout the day. I promise it will make a big difference. So thanks so much again. If people want to find you or learn more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, CoachJayPuppo.com. So CoachJayPuppo.com.
Awesome.
Is our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And one day I'm going to get you on social media.
Isn't this social media?
Yeah, well, it is. Oh, yeah, you are officially on it, my friend. You're officially going to be on YouTube and on podcasts and on Instagram and Facebook. It just happened.
You just reel us in. Thank you.
Thanks again, Jay. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Hey!